how do you say it in English? I couldn't care less about school.
Okay. All
Yeah, I
right.
had to force myself to school every Monday, but I was always looking forward to the weekend to go to church because I was able to, we probably were going to sing and there was going to be live music. And also we had great Puerto Rican food. And it was just like, that was life for me.
Tired of the negativity on the news? Ready to focus on creation and make some moves? The world is our canvas. It's not even a fight. Artists, it's time to take flight. Welcome to Super Artists. I'm your host, David Carus. On today's episode, I have an international singer-songwriter who captivates audiences everywhere with her soulful voice, uplifting message, and unforgettable performances. I have Brenda Marie.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. It made me smile.
After I was in Mexico City recently and we met up, I was sort of thinking, man, I wish we could have got something down, recorded, like done an interview in person, with the video stuff. But I'm glad that we were able to get this thing together today, which is just get the audio down with the podcast because, you're one of the few guests that's going to make it onto this show in the very beginning because I think that you're just such an exceptional talent and what you're doing is just so impactful and what your message is when you're communicating with your music and with your voice. I think it's just so positive, I think that it's just very uplifting and I think that the world needs more music like that. So I wanted to bring you onto the show to be able to just let more people know about you and what it is that you're doing, even though you go all over the world singing. But I wanted to just sort of shine a light on that amazing ability that you have.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for all the validation. Wow, it's so amazing to be in communication with you, really. And first, it was great to meet you in Mexico City. It was almost like I knew you from a long time ago. Like we were on the same frequency, like they say in Mexico City, right? And the same wave. And and then it was almost like we should have recorded that conversation, definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
So maybe we can try to like not duplicate it, but just get that same kind of conversation going here today. And actually, there's a lot that we didn't get
exactly.
into. There's a lot more to explore for sure with your story,
True.
and that's really what I want to dive into today. Is just hear the whole story from like the beginning to today, and just see like how did you become Brenda Marie? Like this person who is just traveling the world, singing to audiences, and why don't we just start off from the beginning? Like I know that you're originally from Puerto Rico, right?
Yes. I am originally from the islands of Puerto Rico.
Hmm.
That's where I was born and raised and grew up. It's a beautiful, it's a gorgeous island, full of music. I get this question a lot, like, how come there's so many people with so much talent in such a small place? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if it comes from the tradition of the even like the native people that used to be there, that used to be very into artistic things and sculptures and stuff like that. I don't know if that's an inheritance that we have culturally passed along the generations, and it's a combination of so many cultures in this island that it just makes it rich in rhythm, rich in melody, and rich in art and expression. And so there are a lot of great musicians and artists there,
Hmm.
and a lot of need, like a lot of people feel this need to express themselves, So I'm one of those.
So when you were a kid there, I mean, tell me a little bit about like family life, like were your parents into music? Like how did you sort of get into that as a focus?
Well, none of my parents were into music really. Like they were basically being a mom and dad.
Okay.
So it's not like they had time to that, and though I mean they didn't have it in their mind to like let me focus on music. They were more like trying to be parents, trying to to raise kids, you know.
Okay.
And they were I had an amazing family. They were really nice, and they gave me the right space, you can say. You know, they never stopped me from singing or wanting to do anything. In my case, my parents were just working class, right? So they had no reality on what it takes to be an artist, and it was not in their universe. But they didn't stop me. It's just that they didn't also like think it was something that you can have a career with, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, so for me, in a way, it was beneficial because I earned it myself,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
rather than having everything, you know, like, what do you want? What do you need? Do you need brushes to paint? Do you need a canvas? Like,
Hmm.
it was more like something that I had to create on my own, which I appreciate because it's something that started from me, you know?
Wow, that's
It's
really
not,
cool.
yes. And so I grew up, you know, in a regular family, very loving family, very supportive of whatever I wanted to do, but not necessarily an artistic family, you know. And also, I used to go to a church when I was little with my family
Hmm.
that was very, very musical. In fact, they had a live band, like a full live band, and I got to perform since I was a kid.
Wow,
So
like how old are we talking here?
like probably 6 or 8,
Oh,
six,
wow.
7, 8 years old. Yes, and I was super afraid that this I want to share because this
Uh-huh.
is so cool. This is we got into the same mojo.
Cool.
You're so good, David. Um, so basically, I was really small, and I was super afraid of the stage, like most people are, I think.
Okay.
Um, and this is a good story to share because maybe some people are afraid to stand in front of other people, but it only takes, you know, like diving in to be able to do it because it's only a shadow, really. There's nothing. It's not hard. It's not any different from talking to one person, you know.
Okay.
And but it's just the idea that it's like, oh my god, like people are gonna throw tomatoes at me, and you know, like it's like that idea of automatic failure.
So Brenda, so you were like 6 or 8 years old. You're really young, and you just got this idea in your head that you wanted to go on stage.
Yes, like it's something that I really, really wanted. Like I don't know how to explain that. Like anything you want, like you have like so much attention on it. Like, oh my God, that would make me so happy. But at the same time, I was like, I'm never gonna do that because I couldn't even think about standing in front of people. You know.
Okay.
Also, when you're so little, it's like overwhelming to think about, you know, like if you've never done it, it's like a big gradient, you know.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's not like you're standing in front of your grandmother and your mother is like a whole crowd of people. It could be intimidating for a child, you know. The idea of standing in front of people for a child, I mean, some people, everybody's different, but for me it was like a big gradient because it's not the same thing, you know, like singing in front of my grandmother in her living room than
Right.
singing in front of like a whole audience, you know. It's like overwhelming. It was something that I really, really wanted. Like I knew it would make me really happy, but at the same time I had this barrier
Okay.
of like fear, you know. And then so this lady, it was almost like she knew it, even though I hadn't said to, like, I hadn't really told anybody,
And
but she
and
knew I can do it.
and this was a
And
lady like at the church though. This was someone
she was
there.
a lady at the church,
Okay.
yeah, who really knew me and perceived me, and she said, you know, you have to go through this, like you have to get rid of that. She didn't have the idea that you can't do something. She was a very, you know, she didn't agree with this kind of thing, like, oh no, she doesn't want to, poor thing, like, no. You know, I think she grew up military or something like that. And
Okay.
she was organizing all these activities with the little girls in church. And we did like theater, and we did musicals, and we did music, and all kinds of different activities, right?
Okay.
So she knew I could do it, but I was super shy. So she just forced me physically in front of my mother. But it was cool. It wasn't bad at all. It wasn't something like it sounds weird, but what she did is that she grabbed me by like the arms, right? And
Hmm.
she put me on top of like a little staircase
Okay.
to pretend it was a stage so that I could confront people in front of me.
Oh
She
wow.
kind of forced she kind of forced me, but she forced me into something that I wanted. See, so it was not bad for me. I didn't take it as something bad, but it was almost like jumping into, diving into a pool or something like that. Or diving in, like really really deep or something like that for me. That's how it felt. Like I
Wow.
was really afraid. And so after that, and I had to sing in front of them, and I sang in front of them, and I just didn't want to do it, and then I wanted to do it, and then nobody could stop me because I was like, I went through that. I got rid of it. I
Wow.
was like, okay, it's nothing. It's really nothing. But yes, that was.
And so where did you go from there? Like, did you just perform like every Sunday in church, or what happened next?
There wasn't like a fixed schedule, but they had different activities. What I remember, it was usually like Christmas and spring and like Mother's Day, Father's Day, special events like that. But
Okay.
it wasn't like every Sunday. But I performed a lot, and I got to um, also to listen to like great singers that are they're not even famous, but I think I just realized recently like how much of an influence they were for me when I was little because they were so great. They probably don't sing anymore, but they were so good, that having that firsthand experience with somebody who's really 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 talented,
Hmm.
or a few people that are really talented, I think is one of the best things that you can do as an artist. Just being surrounded or like being in the same space with people with a lot of talent. I was so in love with their voices and what they did and how they communicated also, because it's not only about the technicalities, it's also about the soul of the person, like
Mm,
how they put their life and their soul and their thoughts and their intention there.
right.
For me, that is what a real artist is about, like what are you giving to the world, not only how well you're doing the physical things that you have to do to perform an action, but what are you doing with that, what are you putting out there? So for me, I think that was a good example that they set for me. Even they probably don't know and they don't even remember, but for me it was fantastic, and not only them but also the whole band of talented musicians that were playing so well because they were playing all the time.
Wow.
They were doing it so much that they were like, wow, they were awesome.
No, I see it. I can completely visualize that whole scene. That's so cool. And so how like
Thank you.
so this was going on throughout childhood, when you were in your formulative years of developing like into who you were going to become. And so what happened next? Like was there a point where you thought, "Man, I could actually be a real singer as a profession one day," or was it just this thing that at the beginning you were like, "Oh, I just want to do it cuz it's fun and I love it?"
Yeah, I wanted to do it because it's fun and I love it.
Okay.
Yes, it was that like um oh my god, like I couldn't, how do you say it in English, I couldn't care less about school.
Okay. All
Yeah, I
right.
had to force myself to school every Monday, but I was always looking forward to the weekend to go to church because I was able to, we probably were going to sing and there was going to be live music. And also we had great Puerto Rican food. And it was just like, that was life for me. Like the
Wow.
rest was like, I was like stuck in school, and I used to go to a school, which, I mean, I send all my love to the school. I love it. But, and to all the people in it, but it was a school with people that were like upper middle class or middle class, but, like kind of like trying to pretend more than they were, and
Okay.
it was a bit of contrast because, when you go to church, you're just into like the spirituality and connecting with God. and trying to be a better person and trying to treat others right and trying to get involved and do activities. And in the school, it was more materialistic. I felt like the people and how things were happening for me, or at least from my point of view, that's how I perceived it. I was like this kind of pure soul, and I clicked more with the more spiritual stuff and the more artistic stuff. Like I levitated to that, and I couldn't wait for the weekend. And let me tell you, like I could be awake till really late just because I was so excited to be there.
Oh wow.
Even as a child. And if I, like waking up early and going to study, and I was a good student. I did what had to be done and blah, blah, blah. But I enjoyed much more. And I was like very extroverted also, like I felt like I could be me versus in school, I felt more restricted and I felt like I didn't belong.
So did you feel that way mostly from the other kids or from the teachers?
The teachers were just doing their job, and there were all kinds of different teachers.
Okay.
Like every teacher is a different universe. But like I feel like they were all trying to do a good job in general. And they were really good. They were really good. But just the kids, because they are coming from families that are, have a little bit of money and are trying like, oh, I got this clothes and I got this thing and I have that and I listen to this, like
Right.
it was, you know what I mean? You get the idea. I don't know how to put it into words, but it's basically like very materialistic and very sometimes discriminating,
Right.
Yes.
Did you ever experience like any of those kids that knew what you were into and that you sang and kind of maybe invalidated you for that or made you feel bad about any of that stuff?
I tell you the truth. First of all, I had never thought about this. I kind of like had probably taken a look at some point and continued my life, like, okay, that's done. But I felt so uncomfortable in this school in terms of being able to completely communicate how I am and who I am, that I didn't even talk about what I did in church. I just was looking forward to it. Like
Wow.
I was looking forward to Friday so that I could go. I could have told a few people, but I would never sing in school, for example. It was not like here and there, but it was not like I didn't feel free to communicate in the first place. So I didn't feel like I had to share and I didn't have the right, first, I didn't feel like I had to share the same thing with them,
Okay.
because it's a different context. Also, when you go to school, you have a schedule, like you go from one class to the next class, to the next class, to the next class. So if the school doesn't have the space for music, it's not going to happen, which that's an important thing.
So
if they don't have the activities
they
for
didn't
that.
have they didn't have a music class or choir or anything like that?
They had at some point, like when because I went to the school since I was 4 all the way to 17.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
you go through kindergarten, elementary school, intermediate, like what do you call it in English? Like intermediate, right?
Okay.
And then high school. So I was there basically a long time, and a lot of things changed. But I think when I only did, like they started creating choirs was when I like in my teenage years. And I didn't feel like I wanted to do choirs because I thought it was so boring. Like they tell you what to do, everything to do. You cannot create. I'm not going to belong there, So they did music class, and I was not interested.
Wow.
Because I just felt their approach was so boring.
So it was just kind of like
okay,
very serious or something, right?
It was very serious. And one thing I have been very careful about is I choose who I want to learn music from or art from. It's something that nobody can touch for some reason. Like if I find somebody that I want to learn from, I would chase this person. Or like I know they have it. I know they they're on another level. They're not just trying to learn a few things here and there, and they don't know what they're saying, and they're just repeating information. No, I want somebody who, like the singers in my church, they had the know-how, and that's another level of communication. I don't want this beginning, like this, like people playing with instruments just to say they went to a class, like I don't want anything to do with that. So I didn't even take the class, I think. Or if I was there, I was probably absent most of the time and only learned how to play the triangle. They just didn't have, it was not a serious class. It was serious because it was like music is serious, but it wasn't serious in terms of like really giving the right space to people to develop an art. So just to give you an idea, they didn't have really a curriculum where they included a lot of music, or if there was a choir, it was like somewhere later, like in high school, where whoever wanted to join could join and all that. But I didn't feel like it was for me. And also, music classes were very limited. I didn't feel the intention of really developing artists. It was more like, we're going to give you this subject and that's it. And you're going to learn from here to here. And it's only going to be for this period, this amount of time. So that was just to give you the picture. I had never thought about this. That's why I'm like talking a lot about it.
No, it's fine.
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say I think it really sound like when you painted that picture of yourself there with your church and the music and how lively it was and how soulful that was, and then you go to this other place where I think they more than any other place is where you probably should develop those things is in a school setting, with other kids and learning crafts and learning like what you're going to be doing with life and things like that. It seems like that would be the ideal place to develop that kind of a culture. But you got it outside of school. You got it at church with all those ladies that were singing and everyone around you there with the musicians and whatnot. So it seems to me pretty obvious or very clear that you wouldn't want to do that if it was taught in that way, because it seems very black and white.
Yes, it's like not appealing at all, And also, now that you say it, in terms of looking at the future, and I'm not talking about present time yet, because I know we'll get there. But in terms of creating as artists what we want the future to be for the future generations, I think it would be a great idea to support the schools that have that, like that awesome environment for development. And I think that the schools should really emphasize, dedicate themselves to bettering, like all these talents and all this, dreams of these children, because they are the future. And, how far they can go depends on that foundation, like you were saying, like those fundamental years, of development.
I agree with you 100%. I think that's super, super needed. So you go to school. It's not very inspiring, but you had this church background. Where did you get the idea that you were going to actually pursue being a singer? Like after school, did you just like start pursuing that, or did you go into a different career path? Like what happened?
That's funny how you asked the question. I love it. Where did you get the idea? Yes, ideas are so powerful. But I was always inspired by also like popular artists, although I grew up more in church and all that. And some churches consider like popular music to be, like really, really bad for you.
Okay.
So I wasn't exposed to a lot of it, but then at some point I did. And I was like, wow, it's so good how they communicate to so many people, and they make me happy. So they're making a lot of people happy. And, you cannot escape. There's a point where you cannot escape from what's happening with the world and what music is being heard around the world, because you're part of the world. So you can't live in a bubble, you're part of the life, So I was like, wow, I love this and I love that. And I was listening to other artists, and that gave me the idea. Now, when I turned like 16, I had to leave the church that I was in. So because some things were not right.
Okay.
So me and my family, we had to leave. And I felt it was a big loss for me because I was still going to school. But this is my two stable things, school and church.
Right,
So funny.
right.
So I still had the school, which was not like my favorite thing, but I was okay. I mean, I was good at it. And then I had the church which I didn't have it anymore because it, I thought for some reason that if I was not at church, I was not going to sing.
Okay.
Like it was the end of, I wouldn't say my career because I didn't see me like as a professional. I thought I'm just doing this because I love it so much, you know. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, if I don't have this, I'm never gonna have music. You know, that was my idea at the time. I was
Oh,
like
wow.
15 or 16. Yeah, like a lot of things started to change. So I was like, okay, that's the end of music for me. I am going to study. So I went early to college.
Okay.
And yeah, so I decided to graduate early from high school because I had everything I needed to graduate. I just didn't feel it was survival to just continue studying if I had all the credits for going to college. So I decided to go to college, and that kind of opened up the world for me because compared to what the constricted environment and like limited ideas or like the environment that I was at in school, to coming to college and meeting many more people and different and from different levels of society with different ideas, with different concepts, and like so much. It was so much that I was like free again, you
Oh, that's
know?
awesome.
Yes. So that, you know, I started basically studying. I didn't even know what I wanted to do with my life. And I started studying public communication, meaning like, you know, social communication, mass media, film, television, and radio.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I felt like that was the closest to art
Okay.
somehow. But I was like, in my mind, like music, you know, I can't do music anymore because I'm not in church. Because that was my you know, the space that I had to create.
Okay.
So now I'm like, just, you know, I'm just gonna get a degree. I was kind of lost. And all of a sudden, I started finding books. I realized like college was limited also, and in terms of what they teach, because it's at some point I felt like it was trivia. You know, like how many answers can you get correct? How well did you memorize the textbook?
Right.
You know, stuff like that, where it didn't really evaluate what you could do with the information or prepare you for really performing something, you know, in life.
Okay.
In this case, like radio, television, I felt like I learned more in college from associating with people, from learning. Even though we're all young, people have a lot of information and people have a lot of talents. And just relating and socializing and connecting with other people was more of a learning experience for me than the professors, honestly.
We'll be right back to our interview in a minute, but first a quick message from our sponsor. Art Planet is a company I founded with the purpose of inspiring and empowering artists everywhere. At Art Planet, we make and sell products that are not only colorful and creative, but also fuel a movement towards combating the destruction of the world by focusing on the creation of a better one. Your purchases make this show and much more possible. Visit artplanet.co, that's artplanet.co, and explore our many products including clothing, creative tools, and artist resources. Use the code PODCAST at checkout and receive 20% off your first order. Thanks for your support. Now back to our interview.
So that was that for me. I ended my cycle with music and I thought, what am I going to do next? I was thinking of continuing studying. I didn't want to leave because I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden I found this art book by L. Ron Hubbard. And I was like, wow, there's like a whole book about art, you know?
Right.
Where was I? Why didn't I see this before, right? So I found he wrote more books and he wrote like Science of Survival. And I was like, and Dianetics. And I was like reading a little bit of these books, and I was talking to people who had read them and telling me about them, like quotes from the books.
Okay.
And I was like, man, wow. So I was like ready to go back to college to like give a copy of one of these books to my professors. Like, oh my God, that question the professor said, I don't remember what it was, but like that question that he said that had no answer, it's right here. It's right here.
Okay.
I'm going to go tell him like this is the solution to his dilemma. That was it for me because I realized something. And it goes along with what you do with your program, right?
Uh-huh.
And everything you do with art the artist world. So I realized something that changed everything for me. Art is important
Yes.
because exactly, and this is so true that it just kills anything that is not true, you know? Basically, I was coming from like, okay, if I don't have this environment where I can create, I'm not an artist, and you know, I'm not gonna do this anymore. End of cycle, then I have to go back to regular life like everybody else, I guess, you know. How can I escape this? And then all of a sudden I find this piece of information that changed everything for me, which is artists are the most important part of a whole society. And this was the first place and the first, idea that I had come across, but the first group of people that actually put the right value. When I found that, I was like, I felt so validated for everything I had felt in my heart, in my being, my whole life. You know, like wow, I'm glad I held on to that because it was true. It was true the whole time. It was true the whole time. So then I had to start creating my life again from that point.
It sounds like you found it pretty early. I mean, I think there's people
Yes,
that they go through, maybe 50, 60 years of life before they kind of, realize something like that. And for you to find it when you're college age, I mean, that's pretty good.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty lucky, and so that did it for me, like that art book, because I was like, wow, art is it's everything. We paint the future, like we create and we inspire people. I can tell you every day I use art to make somebody smile, to put, that's the purpose of artists,
Hmm.
to bring people, make people happy, basically. So if you can do that, then we have a better planet. We're fighting war to that degree. I am so sure about that. Like if the more people are uplifted, the better energy there will be for the planet. So then from that, I decided, okay, I'm gonna work towards being an artist again. But at that point, I was like, I was again back to the beginning in terms of letting myself be. Like back to the beginning where like the when I didn't want to be in front of people. I was
Okay.
like, how do I start if I don't have a group that is pushing me to do it? Like I have no group. I have to start as an individual trying to pursue my dreams. So yeah.
How did you start like singing and performing again?
Well, it took a little bit of time because I started to get that fear again, that, because I didn't have the group pushing me. I
Okay.
felt like it was harder on my own to be like, hey, I want to be an artist, because people have a problem with this. Like I could feel some people don't like this. Some people are like, no, that's your hobby only.
Oh,
You're not
okay.
gonna do
Yeah.
this. Sometimes it's not like a direct attack. If I can give that piece of advice, it's like sometimes it's not like people that go in front of you and tell you, you can't do this. If you do that, I'm gonna kill you. No, that doesn't happen very often. I don't meet a serial killer, like, or a really bad person like that every
Right.
day. But people have frustrations themselves, and we all do. And then when you see somebody that is like really wanting to do something, it's like, no, I couldn't do it. You can't do it, or something like that. At the beginning, I wasn't even sure of who I could trust telling my dreams to. I don't know if I'm the only one. I was like trying to protect that. Like I was my only friend.
Oh boy.
That's true. You are your best friend. And if that has to start, like that has to be the first thing that happens, that you can trust your own dreams to yourself, that you can trust yourself. And then
Right.
from there, you can expand in life. Then I had a boyfriend who was an Olympian, and that made it for me because he was a dreamer like me. He even went to the Olympics to compete.
Oh wow.
You know,
Yeah.
yes. So he was like a top athlete in the islands. Like nobody could beat him. Nobody ran faster than this guy. Like it was amazing. It was amazing to watch him run because he was like a god. Like I was looking at him and I was like, how can somebody run so fast? And yeah, it was incredible. Like there was nobody that could top him.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
imagine that feeling, right? So I was like just in this bubble with him. Like I was telling him my dreams, and he would believe in me, and I believed in what he could do. And years later, we're not together anymore, right? But he told me like I pushed him to achieve more, and I didn't even know, you know. But just the fact that I wanted to achieve things, and I was like, you can do it, and you're the best. And then so we kind of flowed power to each other.
Oh, that's
And
great.
yes, and he kind of helped me, and we decided to move to Los Angeles because I felt like in a small island there's so much that you could do, and not necessarily I had the space or the opportunities for what I wanted. So I decided to move.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
That must have been huge for you, like a big shift in your whole life.
Yes, yes. But I was so decided. I was like, I don't care. Like I have to do this. So I moved, and it was a good change. Later on, we're not any longer together. But I started like doing recordings and getting in touch with people. And in Los Angeles, the thing is like there are so many artists, and art is so real that it's important, and it's so real, even though there's like haters and whatever. But there's so much more people that are going to agree with what you want to do, you know?
Okay.
So it's a big city. So,
Yeah.
and it's a big art city. So I was like, okay. And, like it was hard, but, to, like you said, to move with everything, to start from scratch. But I mean, it was a good start establishing relationships and starting to record and realizing that I was pretty good, that I had talent for this, and that, like it's like a validation of what you can do.
Hmm.
And then later on, I decided to move to Mexico, which was never my plan, but it ended up being one of the most amazing cities I've been to.
Okay.
You've been there, so you know how cool it is. It's very special. So there, like I'm my first language is Spanish, so I felt like kind of like free because it was in my own, native language, compared to the States. It can be overwhelming because you're dealing with a second language, and you're dealing with changes and pushing through a lot of obstacles. So here I felt more comfortable,
Hmm.
in terms of communicating, and it was easier for me.
Sure.
So I ended up staying there and building a career.
What was the first thing that you decided to do as a first action, to break into doing anything with music there in Mexico City?
Well, that's funny. I was just, like moving around with the things that I had recorded in Mexico. I was like, okay, let me create my business cards. Let me start to make myself known. I think I started like that, making connections, like one on one.
Okay.
Like, hey, hello, I am Brenda. I sing, and then, and I love music, and so I started creating that, like, basically, making myself known to people who didn't know me, in this new area, and then
Okay.
trying to some people, like usually good friends, will like be like, hey, this person is a really good contact because he's a producer, and
Hmm.
he has worked in, so people connect you to another person who connects you to another person who connects you to another, and you keep going like that.
Right. Right.
So somehow I started performing at small places, and I started meeting one person to the next. And then I got a chance to perform with a band. It was a rock band. So I was like, that's not for me. The first thought I had was like, I'm not a rocker. I'm not a rock person. But coming from Puerto Rico, so it's not very common. So I was like, no, that's not my thing. But then I thought, like that could be a good opportunity to learn something new. So I was about to say no for the audition,
Hmm.
and then I said yes because I thought I cannot be stuck. I have to be willing to learn, to experience it. And if it's not for me, then I'll have a chance. I mean, I think I still be on time to say no after the audition.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I started, and that band helped me a lot. They give me a chance to explore sounds, to try it again, and they really needed what I had to give
Hmm.
at that time. and I really needed what they had to give me as well. I got to sing, like, for the first time, songs that I really, really wanted to sing, like Aretha Franklin standards and Carole King and stuff like that. Once I had that, then I started to get into Janis Joplin. And once I had that, I started to get into Tina Turner. And I discovered, like, that was school. That was a real music school compared to taking a class that is black and white, like you said. Like, this was like the real deal, because then you have to learn and you have to stand in front of people, and you're getting paid, so you better do it right. I was like so afraid that these people were gonna like throw tomatoes at me, so I'm like, okay, oh my god, the first song and they didn't scream. This is good. I remember like looking at these people, like it was just a few tables, it was not the end of the world anyways, but I was like, there was this particular lady that was so happy and singing and like validating so much and enjoying the show so much, like with all her heart. I thought somebody had paid her, or she was friend. I thought she's probably friends with somebody in the band, and I don't know. Wow. But no, she actually loved it, and I was like, wow. It's just a matter of getting out there. It's just a matter of going through the shadow and just doing it and not caring about the people who don't like it. Care about the people who like it, and that's your audience,
Right. That's super important for sure. I think too many times, we are focusing on having to please everybody, but I think you're totally right. It's like you find the people that are going to like it, because you can't really convince the people that don't like it to really like it,
Exactly. And then the more you validate the people that are validating you, the more the people that are not validating you start to validate you. You can write it down as as a formula, like,
right.
If you put your attention on the good things, on the good people, all of a sudden, I've had this happen over and over again in my shows. I have people with like really bad vibes that you think they will throw a tomato at me. They will grab that tomato on the plate and throw it at me.
Right.
And they're so serious and looking at you like really mean, like almost like they want to kill you or something, or like, yeah, come on, let me see how good you are. I don't think you're that good. Like sending you that vibe,
Yeah.
And it's like I've gone through that so much that I don't care. I think it's like a game now. Like, okay, who's happy? Okay, I'm gonna play with the people that are happy, and all of a sudden, the ones in the audience that are not so happy and are not so nice, those are the ones that at the end of the show sometimes come and are like, oh my God, you are so good. I enjoyed this so much. And they end up dancing. But if I give my attention to the people that are negative, then I am, like, I lose. Everybody loses. We have to value good things. We have to be there and we have to observe. And the more we observe, the more we value life, because we value how much goodness is around us,
Yeah.
So each person that has given me an opportunity or has pushed me in the right direction, or I love them. I really value and love them. And like this lady, it was like wow, what a coincidence that she was there, and she was like randomly there, like all the people there, and then she was so like until the end of the show enjoying everything we were doing. Now, this is important, but one thing I want to say is, how would it have been different? Yes, because I wouldn't have had that person, like instead of throwing tomatoes at me, she threw me spiritual flowers,
Right, yeah.
But so this is valuable, but you know what? From the point of view of a creator, you're like Wonder Woman. You're like Superman. Listen, you don't need that. From the point of view of boot camp, you have to be able to have no audience. You have to be able to have one person in the audience and treat them like the room is full of people. Because you never know who that person is. And whether the person is a VIP or not, he's a person. And he's important just because he's a person, or she's a person. And if you have a bad audience or a bad person in the audience, It doesn't matter. You know what I feel, how I feel about this is, from one side, I agree that I have to appreciate these people that have been there in those key moments. And I do. But on the other hand, if it wouldn't have been that way, I still have to cause what I want.
I love
You know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you cannot depend on a person who maybe showed up, maybe not. But I assure you that if you are pushing through the barriers and making it go right, and being there no matter what, in control of whatever you're doing, then that person's going to show up. Because in the end, you're there, you're in control, and you're there to help them. So that's how I see it. I know not everybody sees it the same way. I
No,
do.
I love that. I think that's extremely important to that because you're the one that put yourself in that space to even have anyone there to experience you at all. Like you're choosing to go into that space, and I think that just taking that step, of just showing up and doing the work, and I mean that alone is so important. But my God, it really can be a factor for a lot of people, and thank God that that never stopped you. You just kept pushing forward.
Thank you. Thank you. But the thing is, like, the way I see art, the artist, you have to create regardless of what other people think.
Yeah.
You have to be independent from that, because otherwise you don't do anything.
So you had these early performances, and how did you build that up? Like, how do you get to the point where you're singing like all these different countries and you have fans all over the world? Like, how do you get from that first paid gig to something like that?
Well, how do you say this? Like, I developed my product in terms of like the sounds that I wanted to use. Like when you're painting, or when you're creating as a painter, let's say, you start being like, oh, okay, I really like this style.
Mm.
I'm going to always put a red dot on my paintings, or I don't know, whatever you start creating your sound, your trademark, your colors, your concept.
Hmm.
And playing a lot. I have played a lot, a lot. I have worked really hard, and I'm very proud about it, because that's giving me certainty and permission from myself. Like, I have earned this. Not like I did this one. Not that everybody has to do it the same way.
Uh-huh.
But I am glad, because I have the certainty of having done things so many times, so many hours, so many shows, so many times. It just, you get used to handling people. You become professional, by doing it all the time and perfecting it. And how can I make it better? And so I had the chance to practice and practice and practice and practice like crazy. So then all of a sudden I started getting, invitations to perform in Hollywood or to perform around the world. That's how it happened, basically. like
Nice.
like I just I think I just got to the point where I really like what I was doing.
Well, tell me
Yes.
what you have going on now. Like, what are you up to these days? Like, what are you working on? What projects do you have?
Well, right now I have been recording original songs, and I'm releasing singles, which is the trend, the thing to do right now.
Right, right.
And so I am working on an album, but I will be releasing singles. I'm experiencing new sounds. I can't say exactly what, but because then it won't be a surprise.
Hmm.
But recently I released this song called Gladiator, which I told you about when we met, and you were helping me out, in the conversation, to, like, sometimes you need to talk to somebody, and when you kind of sort it out while talking, and then so that got completely sorted out like a miracle. So now I have released a few singles in the last few years, and
Okay.
I'm working on more music. And I will be releasing a music video soon. It's going to be a cartoon video
Oh, wow.
of the song that I just really. Yes, it's going to be very cool. And the song is called Gladiator, which is the one I'm still promoting. And
Hmm.
it's a rock song. Features Billy Sheehan on the bass and Chili B, who is a rap artist. And he is amazing in the song as well.
That's a great song. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's great. I
Thank
you know it's the energy behind it is awesome. It's a very empowering song, and I think everybody listening should check it out for sure.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, and it's on iTunes, Spotify, on my website, on my Facebook. It's everywhere. If you look for
Mhm.
Brenda Marie, oh, BrendaMarie.tv, you'll find it starts playing.
Well, Brenda, let me ask you this: every episode I end off asking this one question, which is what one work of art, and it can be a painting, a book, an album, a song, a film, whatever, would you recommend that every single person on earth go check out?
Whew, we talked about this. This is very hard to answer because there are so many things that create an impact in you.
Sure.
But right now, I have attention on one song that I have. This song, this is what happened. It's a Stevie Wonder song. It's called Ass. I said it wrong again. Ass. ¿Cómo se dice? Do you know this song? Until the na 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 always. No?
I think so.
Oh,
It sounds familiar. Now
as
now
the rain ass.
yeah,
Como se, how do
I
you
gotta
say
pull out my
something sound like
greatest hits.
ass? I
You
can
mean as
this
like
one?
just as, right?
Ass,
As. Uh-huh.
ass, yes. But I sound like I'm saying ass, because of my Spanish accent, and I
Sure,
can't
sure.
do it right. And look, the same thing happens with cookie. I say cookie. So it's
Sure,
like
sure.
I can't get rid of it. A-S. It's spelled A-S, as. I just love it because it's a poem almost.
Okay.
And I was stuck with this song, like I couldn't hear another song for months. Like
Wow.
I did not want to because the song has so many songs in it. And as I can't reveal the mystery of tomorrow, and in passing, we grow older every day. Just as all that's old is new, you can rest yourself assured that I'll be loving you always.
Mm.
It's a whole poem. Lyrically, it's beautiful. The melody is amazing. The rhythm is amazing. The backing vocals are insane. And then he takes on different like characters. It's almost like he brings in another singer, but it's him,
Hmm.
you know. And he's like doing this really rough voice. And I really love soul music because it's very free. But this song I love it because it's a whole poem, and it's full of admiration for another person. And he's dedicating this song to somebody, and he's pledging his love forever to this person. But I think it can apply to anything. Like you can have love for your cats, or for your dog, or for your kids, or for the universe, and for your friends. It's just like it's a pledge of universal infinite love.
That's
But it's
great.
done in a way where it doesn't sound cheesy. And it's done with the enough roughness when it's needed, and the softness when it's needed. And I feel if you transfuse, I don't know where I got that word from,
Okay,
but
okay.
if you transpose, or if you were to transfer this song into a painting, it would be
Mm.
so colorful and so full of different forms, and so impactful, and so meaningful at the same time. So it's a very long song. It's like 6 or 7 minutes or 8 minutes. And I will be performing this song with a friend of mine this weekend for the first time, and I've
Oh,
been wanting this to happen.
wow.
So yeah, yeah. If you have a chance, check it out. It has created among many other artists and songs art, but this is such a beauty. It's you have to listen to it. Yeah.
Well, awesome, Brenda. Well, thanks for taking the time out today to do this interview, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, and thank you for listening to all the stories. You really like made me think about things that I hadn't like really looked into detail like that. And thank you for caring for artists and for creating a better future for this planet through art. I really appreciate you being so caring for the artist, and so caring for me about my art and what I'm doing and trying to flow me power. I just want to say that, yeah, I'm looking forward for the next interview. We can cover another subject, and it's been a big pleasure for me.
Well, I appreciate that, and I feel the same way. Thank you so much again. And the next time we got to do one in Mexico City, or just do something in person where we can videotape it, I think that'd be awesome.
Okay, cool. Deal.
Are you a super artist? Want to be one? We've got an awesome opportunity for you to tell the world and win something cool at the same time. Enter our Super Artist Selfie Contest for a chance to win our popular artist training course, Super Artist Bootcamp. Super Artist Bootcamp has 8 modules with 24 videos teaching artists how to build confidence, how to promote and sell their work, and how to achieve a creative life. We pick a new winner every week, and all you have to do to enter is take a selfie of yourself holding a piece of paper or sign that says Super Artist and post it on Instagram with the hashtag SuperArtist. Good luck and keep creating. It's time for some art trivia. Last episode we asked, what project marks the only time in history 2 Nobel Prize winning authors collaborated on a film? It was the 1944 film To Have and Have Not, and the collaborators were Ernest Hemingway and William Faulkner. Here's a new question. What famous female singer's last recording was a birthday song for John Lennon? Think you know the answer? Tune in next episode and find out. Thanks for listening to this episode of Super Artist with David Carus. This podcast is recorded at Art Planet Studio in Taylor, Texas, in the historic McCrory Timmerman building. All of the music in today's episode was produced by Ethergun. You can find his music on iTunes, SoundCloud, and pretty much anywhere online. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, please hit that subscribe button and share this episode with your friends. We need more art and artists in the world, and your support of our show helps make that happen. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the future.